Imagine what this place used to look like. The ecosystem, it should be healthy and thriving. You should hear crickets and you should hear the birds making these noises and the grasses. It should be such a beautiful, peaceful, serene noise. And so we want our entire place to sound like that, to feel like that. We need to be using all of our senses when we're out in our pastures and with our cattle.
Go walk on this and it's like, it doesn't feel hard. It's like you're walking on cushion. It's not like it's really cool.
And there's a lot of birds here with them. I can hear a lot of birds right now too, but they love it.
Picture this. You're in the middle of a pasture at high spring. There's a horseshoe of pine ridges around you with an expanse of butte-dotted plains at its opening. Over a cacophony of meadowlarks and red-winged blackbirds, you hear cattle wading through forbs and native grasses. The grass is so tall, it tickles your armpits and buoys your step. You're not worried about treading on any Canadian thistle or prickly pear, so your feet are bare. They can feel the ground better that way. If you were to sink a shovel through it all, it'd glide like a fork through chocolate cake.
It's all got really nice cover too. There's no bare ground here. It's all...
You can hear all the roots when you're pulling through.
Pull apart, and it's like...
Actually really is. And do you ever smell it? Did you give her a big old piece to smell? Here's a big old piece. So...
It smells like my garden, you know?
It smells healthy.
Welcome to Reframing Rural. I'm Megan Torgerson. Today's story brings us to Ekalaka, Montana, where Ryan and Abbey Bruski aren't just taking over their family's ranch, they're making big changes to improve the health of the land they steward and their bottom line. When I made the trek from western Montana to Carter County and pulled into the Bruskis, spring rains had muddied the gravel road to their ranch. Carter County is the furthest southeast county in the state, bordering South Dakota and Wyoming. During the 2020 census, it was one of a few rural counties to grow in population. Per capita, its growth was surpassed only by Bozeman's Gallatin County.
These prairie miles, they're a lot quicker driving than in the mountains. Mm-hmm. There's another big old barn down there.
Yeah, and then the pine trees come back.
My parents, Rennie and Russ, joined me for the trip. They're here to watch Connor, my 1-year-old son who's sleeping in the back seat. From Bozeman to Miles City, down through Baker and onto Ekalaka, we watch the landscape swirl and metamorphose, from the peaks of the Absaroka Beartooths to the rim rocks guarding the Yellowstone River Valley, the agate-lined mouth of the Tongue River, and finally the green rippling hills along Highway 7 south. The anticipation builds as we crest a hill and see tower after tower of 8-story-high sandstone rocks protruding from the prairie. It looks like an artist has drawn a bit of Utah desert onto an otherwise grassy landscape.
What is that sign?
Medicine Rocks Church.
Okay. Medicine Rock. Cool. Carter County.
Entering Carter County Conservation District. Now see all these amazing rocks?
That's cool. Wow. Whoa. Aren't they cool? Gee.
The Medicine Rocks are a sacred place to the tribes who migrated through the area. The Sioux, Northern Cheyenne, Crow, Hidatsa, Arikara, and Mandan. It's part of what contributes to the grandeur of this country. With its forested rims and high prairie ground, when we drive down into Ekalaka, it feels like a combination of places I've lived before, the Rocky Mountains and the Northern Great Plains. This story has been on the books since before Connor was born. Collaborators at the World Wildlife Fund suggested interviewing the Bruskis because of the rapid and widespread headway they've made improving the health of their grasslands. And through the family's succession planning process, the impressive work they've done adding structure and sustainability to their business.
All right, good morning, team. How's everyone doing?
Wonderful.
Good morning,
Abby. How are you?
Good.
Abby is the first Bruski I meet. She grew up on a farm and ranch along the Yellowstone River in Hysham, Montana, and married into the family. She was high school sweethearts with Ryan, who she followed to Ekalaka after the couple graduated from college in Bismarck, North Dakota. Today they have 3 adorable kids, Becca, Harper, and Luke. Behind their kitchen table, there's pictures of their kiddos smelling soil and growing tall in a field of flowering sandpoint. That's forage for cattle that looks a little like the flower foxglove.
Yeah, that is our oldest in the Sandfoin. We planted a bunch of it, and we took annual pictures there. So our little dude, we need to go get him out there, but he usually just throws it at me. So we'll get him eventually to
He
get.
likes to smell dirt already, too. He's picking up what the older sisters do, so he's like, smell dirt. He doesn't know why he's smelling
Smell
dirt
the
yet,
soil.
but
Yeah. Some of it's dirt. We still got a ways to go.
After I've finished setting up, Abbey and Ryan take turns watching their kids for the first interviews.
You can go play downstairs. That's no problem. Kate, grab something. You can go downstairs too, Kate.
Abbey is a great mom and an influential business leader. She is incredibly intentional and calculated in both of her roles. If she'd have ended up in a city like she originally planned, she'd have rocked a power suit and been a Forbes 30 under 30. Abbey is just out of her 20s, but she has earned much respect in regenerative agriculture circles.
EMRA, that Eastern Montana Regenerative Ag we helped form, it's a great group. It's just a safe place for all of us to come together. We have workshops, we have meetings, and we can talk to people about ideas and trying new things. And World Wildlife Fund has been amazing. We make a plan and tell them our mission, our vision, and they really want to work with us. And there's even the Autobahn, there's so many awesome groups.
Abbey says thousands of acres between multiple neighbors have been restored using regenerative practices. I wonder if that's what makes Carter County a desirable place to live.
Lots of electric fences gone in, miles and miles and miles and miles, probably hundreds of miles of electric fences gone in amongst the 4 ranches that I can think of right now that are our neighbors that are doing this.
Abbey and Ryan got their first taste of regenerative agriculture, or adaptive agriculture as they like to call it, when they were living in Bismarck for college. Regenerative is a buzzword today. For me, it brings to mind practices that are rooted in indigenous knowledge, like integrating livestock and rotating crops, that foster improved soil health and ecological resilience in the face of climate change. Here's what it means to the Bruskis.
Regenerative to me is this new word that everyone's throwing around everywhere, right? I think of it as more of adaptive agriculture. So a lot of it's observation. We make our changes every year based on observation and looking in more data and soil tests and really looking underneath what's going on. And that really tells us what we're doing.
Ryan was the first one to hone the art of observation when he was studying under the father-son regenerative ag celebrities Gabe and Paul Brown. Gabe Brown is featured in a Netflix documentary narrated by Woody Harrelson.
I feel super blessed to be able to have said that, I worked for him. And I don't want to write on Gabe and Paul's shirt tails or anything like that, but it's like, it was an honor to work for him. I mean, it really was, because they both did a really good job of explaining what they were doing. Like, I should have been paying them, not me getting paid for helping them, because they were just teaching me so much.
Gabe and Paul Brown's ranch in Bismarck was like a Garden of Eden to 19-year-old Ryan, with its earthworms and mycorrhizal fungi, polyculture cash crops, cows, pigs, poultry, and countless species of migratory birds, insects, and wildlife.
Well, I mean, at first I was like, these guys are nuts. This only works over here where they get more rain and they have great topsoil, And as I worked for them and saw the similarities, it was like, I want to try this. It just kind of made me want to go home and be like, I want to be the guy that does it here. If people say we can't, I want to be the one that proves everybody wrong.
I called up Gabe after my reporting trip to the Bruskis to ask about Ryan's time working for him. I've admired Gabe's work for years as a soil health crusader who is inspiring a movement of producers to take a holistic approach to agriculture that promotes biodiversity and climate resilience. He's like a salt-of-the-earth farmer and climate activist rolled into one.
Hello.
Hi, Gabe.
Gabe shares how Ryan came to know the Browns.
My family and I have a ranch right east of Bismarck, and after my son graduated from college, he was an adjunct professor at Bismarck State College, and Ryan was one of his students. Well, they formed a friendship, and we actually hired Ryan after school hours to work on our ranch, and he picked up on regenerative ag very quickly, and I know he went home and started telling his father about what we were doing, and they started to implement some of the practices on their farm and ranch.
Can you tell me a little bit about what Ryan was like when he was younger?
He was still tall. I'll tell you that much.
Joking aside, Gabe was impressed by Ryan.
I just saw in Ryan a very inquisitive young man who was open to new ideas. And then as a worker, he was an excellent worker, as most young people are who grow up on a farm and ranch. You know, he had a very good work ethic that his parents instilled on him. And, you know, because of that, it was a very easy decision for us to hire him.
Ryan's time with Gabe was an invitation to dream what his family's place in Ekalaka could someday look like, sound like, and smell like. At that point, the soil at the Bruski place was not as dark, fluffy, or pungent as chocolate cake. They were still farming then and ran cow-calf pairs, a common arrangement for producers in the northern Great Plains. But that business model wasn't always successful. 2012 was the season when the family realized something about their operation needed to change.
We had a horrible drought, and I remember we bought a couple $100,000 worth of just fertilizer and chemical, and we hauled 4 semi-loads off of the whole place. And some of that was drought, some of it was hail. It was just a horrible situation. And I said, we've got to do something different. I mean, like, we cannot sustainably do this anymore.
Their harvest was scant that year. They didn't yield enough to make back the money they'd invested into the crop. And to make things worse, those 4 measly semi-loads of grain had to be hauled 225 miles away, one way to the grain elevator in Pompey's Pillar, which tipped the balance sheet further into the red.
And you start figuring that into your costs, It doesn't pay to farm here.
This is Ryan's dad, Joe.
I don't see how you can make it pay.
Like his son, Joe's a big man with a kind heart. He was doing things the way he learned how, and like all the farmers and ranchers I know, trying his hardest in a tough business. In order to understand how Ryan and Abbey's operation came to be, I wanted to rewind and hear about Joe's childhood. Yeah, do you have any kind of favorite memories from growing up on your family's place? Anything that really stands out?
Favorite memories? Well, we were taught to work. That's, I think, a prerequisite of that time. We survived some tough times, too, through it. So I remember straightening staples and, weird stuff now we don't even think about, it seems like.
What was your dad like?
Dad was, how do I put this? I think he could be cantankerous to get along with, but he was also fair. What was right was right, what was wrong was wrong. He taught us to work. He wasn't afraid to take a chance.
Yeah.
He built the ranch, so.
When he got older, Joe ran the operation alongside his brother and his dad. That partnership ended when their dad died. Joe's family didn't communicate openly about planning for the farm's future, and his dad hadn't made a clear succession plan. Eventually, the strain caused by the transition led Joe's brother to leave the operation.
Part of the reason I feel like my brother left is because Mom wouldn't let him know what was happening, and I felt like I stood behind my mom, and then I feel like it actually caused problems for me down the road here because we didn't know what was going on.
Understandably, it's hard for Joe to talk about this period. The way his parents handled their succession plans, or more aptly, didn't handle them, was stressful for him and damaged relationships. To help describe the situation he was in, Joe uses a hypothetical farmer with the name of Johnson.
Young Johnson's 65 years old. He's waiting for the 90-year-old father to die so he can take over. Well, he shouldn't even be in the picture at that point. And I think that's what's part of our problem with our communities in Montana is that there is no succession planning. They think they're going to die when they hand it over, and they're not.
After Joe's dad passed and his brother left the picture, Ryan and his sister had some big shoes to fill to keep the farm and ranch going. When Ryan was growing up and he wasn't in school, he was putting in the same long hours as his dad.
My older sister and I got thrown into the full-time hired hand role at a fairly young age. I was 10, I believe. So it was a grow-up quick moment type deal. I really enjoyed working, but my dad didn't have anybody else, and he threw us basically to the wolves. And I mean, I really appreciate how I grew up, but there's a lot of things that I know I want to try to do a little differently with our kids. But I had a great childhood as far as being outside all the time, but it was also that constant, just you work till 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, and there was never a breath of fresh air. I mean, it just, like my whole childhood, I felt like it just never seemed like you could go do anything. Very, very labor intensive. There was like a guilty conscience that I couldn't leave, type deal.
Yeah.
And so that's something I want my kids to work hard, but I don't want them to miss out on all those opportunities.
Ryan did play football and basketball in high school. He says it was a reprieve from all the work he had to do at the ranch. Ryan's mom, Sonia, who grew up in Ekalaka and owns a salon in town, advocated for Ryan to take some time away from the ranch when he was growing up.
My only thing was I knew they were workaholics, and I said they have to go to swimming lessons because we have a pool in town. Not very big, but it's heated, and a lot of people have learned to swim in that pool.
Ryan learned to manage work, school, and sports as a kid, and at the same time, he was dealing with serious health problems. He had severe asthma. Sonia recalls how young Ryan was when he started showing symptoms.
He had to start doing breathing treatments when he was 2. And it was hard because it's kind of like making him sit and time out. So he would sit on my lap and we would read books.
I also had asthma growing up, though it's under control now. I was out in the field with my mom during harvest one year, and on the drive home, I started having an asthma attack. We realized we didn't have an inhaler on us, so my mom had to make a quick decision either to drive 40 miles to the ER in Williston, North Dakota, or speed home on washboard gravel roads. We drove home and I ended up being okay, but through my early years, I was hospitalized with pneumonia twice and rented a nebulizer from the hospital I had to bring to summer camp. Joe recalls a similar situation with Ryan.
Well, I remember taking the nebulizer and going to gas stations and having them being able to plug it in at their walls.
You'd have to sit behind the counter. I always kind of, just had my eye out and my ear out for him all the time because it's like you never know when it's going to hit you.
Being around all the dust and dirt that comes along with ranching is hard on Ryan.
Yeah, I had an asthma attack a couple winters ago coming from the shop to the house, and I thought I was going to die.
But despite his asthma, the family had no choice but to rely on Ryan to work. Even when he went away to college, he was still putting in lots of hours at the farm and ranch.
I did work for Paul and Gabe Brown at college and had some other jobs while I was at school, but basically every weekend I drove home 250 miles. I think I stayed at college in Bismarck like a total of 4 weekends of the 3 years that I was at school. So it was, you were always expected to kind of come home and be home, which was fine. That's what I like to do, but there was a lot of things that I did miss out on growing up, like with friends that they went and would be able to go do things that I never felt okay. There was like a guilty conscience. And my dad had the same thing. He had to quit college early to come home and help. It was expected of him. And so, I was very fortunate that I got to finish college and do what I did. But it just was like, there was never that option for me to do that. I wish I could have been able to go work for some more people, see some different operations. But I never felt like I pretty well got told, I remember talking with my grandma, like, I don't know if I want to come back, I don't know if this is what I want to do here. And she says, well, then there's not going to be a place if you don't come back. And so it was kind of I wouldn't say throw it on me, but pretty well just, this is on you. So, and it caused a lot of resentment from my cousins because I came home. And I don't know, that was hard, but...
Ryan was still essentially a kid when his grandma placed the fate of the farm and ranch on his shoulders. His large frame shrinks a little when he talks about this time and the toll his grandmother's expectations had on his relationships with his cousins.
Most of them were like 10 years older, and they came and helped a lot and were a part of, helping when I was growing up and stuff. But it was always like a weekend hobby for them, type deal. Not necessarily they got to come and enjoy it and do the fun things. And then they weren't here when it wasn't the fun stuff, but
Yeah. So it was expected of you to come back because your dad was running the place?
I think that's kind of what it was, you know. They all had their own jobs and whatnot. And I mean, at that point, my dad was the one out here. So it was kind of like, it was expected of me. And I wouldn't have wanted it any different, but that was, at 18, it was a lot to kind of digest, you know.
Ryan's conversation with his grandma was almost 15 years ago now. But some of the old, hard feelings caused by the poor succession planning of Ryan's grandparents still linger today. And what is your relationship like to your cousins today?
Some of them we get along just fine, and some of them we don't speak. So, I mean, it just depends on what part of the family. But, yeah, it's sad to see that because it was forced upon all of us of what our parents thought, you know. And so Abby and I were pretty clear on we don't want to do that. I mean, the previous generations before us failed horribly at having crucial conversations. Tempers flared and reason went out the door, and it's sad that they couldn't get on a page, because that's what I told Abby and Dad and Mom, and I said, whatever we're doing, I want to visit with my two sisters at least once a year so that they know where we're at.
Abby, who took her turn with the kids, rejoins our conversation.
That's where I think a lot of this succession stuff got ugly and messy, is these horrible stories were built into children's heads, and then they continue that on, and then this cycle is vicious and it doesn't break. And a lot of families have been ruined because of soil, of dirt. They've flat out just, it's broken people up.
I wonder if Ryan's grandparents would have done things differently if they knew that the collateral damage of avoiding succession conversations would be severed relationships. But the only thing the Bruskis could do in this situation was to move forward and try to change the ranch from the outside in, starting with the animals and the soil, then eventually moving into the business and the people. After this short break, we'll hear what came next for Ryan and Abby and how they started making changes on their land and in their family. This season of Reframing Rural is produced in collaboration with WINIT ACES, which stands for Agricultural Community Enhancement and Sustainability. The mission of the WINIT ACES is to strengthen their community by enhancing the health of their land, economy, and traditions for future generations. Season 4 Succession Stories is supported by the Plank Stewardship Initiative, World Wildlife Fund, Headwaters Foundation, and American Farmland Trust. Do you have a farm or ranch succession story you'd like to share with us? Call 406-219-7465 and leave a voicemail to share either your family's experience with succession or reflections you've had on stories you've heard this season. After all the heartache and sacrifice Ryan had already experienced, the sweat equity he put into the farm and ranch since he was 10 years old, the miles he traveled each weekend to get back to the place in college, Ryan didn't want the fate of Sisyphus pushing a boulder up the hill for it to roll back down on him each time. So he took a hard look at the operation and decided to make some changes. The Bruski place started out as a farm and ranch, but 75 years later, farming no longer made sense for their land. Here's Abby talking about the condition of the soil when she and Ryan started working on the operation.
We have a lot of sand hills out here on the Beaver Flats, so I actually call it, in the schools, they can put sandbox sand in here, is what we have, really lots of sandy ground. It can take in a lot of water, but it's really hard to grow stuff on the tops. We would plant things, try to farm it, and it was just growing sand.
Abby remembers how hard this way of working was on everyone.
Soil was mined out, and the people were not happy. The farming sucked up our life. The men wouldn't get back in till 10 or 11 at night. Started in the morning, you never saw them. They lived out of a lunchbox and in the tractor.
My dad lived out of his lunchbox when I was growing up too, and it was hard on my family. During harvest season, I wouldn't see my dad for days at a time because he left the yard and started working before I got up for school and came home after I was already in bed. There were times I felt like I was being parented by a single mom. That's how the Bruskis family functioned too, but Ryan and Abbey wanted to break out of this mold and forge a different path. In order to change the operation, Ryan had to assert himself early on with his dad.
When I was like maybe a senior in high school or a freshman in college, and he kind of was he wanted me to be okay doing exactly what he had done. And I was like, I'm not. And it was very emotional for the both of us, but it was like, I'm not going to do that. I said, plain and simple. I said, if you want somebody else to come in, I said, if you want one of the girls to come back, I said, all power to you, but I'm not coming back to do that same thing.
When Ryan was having this conversation with his dad, he knew deep down that he wanted to come back to the ranch. From the time he was in elementary school, he was committed to the place. But he didn't want to farm on sand or raise calves the way Grandpa and Dad had done before. He wanted something different, something better for the place he stood to inherit with Abbey. In the grand scheme of things, Ryan was young yet and didn't have that much sway. His mentor, Gabe Brown, on the other hand, had more authority.
Paul and I went out to Bruskis to see their operation. Ryan had invited us out, and so we got to go around their ranch with both Joe and Ryan. And I remember, the first time we were out there, Joe was a bit more cautious. He's always a very likable person and easy to visit with, but he was a bit more cautious about some of the ideas. And over the next few years, after Ryan had moved back to their ranch, I really noticed a change in him in that he being Joe was more inquisitive.
At this time, Ryan was bringing new ideas to the table, and over the phone, Gabe would verify them with Joe.
Him and I had a few conversations over the phone about certain things, and I would explain it. And I cannot chuckling to myself because I could only imagine what Joe was thinking when Ryan would tell him some of the things. But then I think him hearing it from me and the way I explained it, I think that maybe gave him a little bit more peace of mind. And I got to give Joe credit, though, for the sake that he was willing to let Ryan try things. And I can't overemphasize the importance of that parents need to allow their children to fail at some things. Not saying that Ryan failed, but there's always a risk of failure with anything you try in farming and ranching. Just make your failures small. And for Joe to have the confidence in Ryan to allow him to do that, I think, says a lot about Joe, and I give him credit for that.
So they started trying some of the things Ryan had learned in Bismarck under Paul and Gabe Brown.
Going down the regenerative and the soil health deal, and it just seemed kind of like the right way for us to go, more low input. We were really moving the cows.
Here's where things start to get really interesting for the entire living ecosystem on the Bruski place. Massive changes are happening above ground and below ground, at scale, and pretty quickly. Abbey lays out the formula.
I believe it starts with a healthy soil. That is the foundation, and then our cattle are healthy, our grasses are healthy, our people are healthy.
Hearing this, I feel at home with the Bruskis. I love when I meet people who share in my experience of conventional agriculture, but who want to do things differently with their land and with their own health.
We dove down rabbit trails of food health and animal and people health and all the things in our guts, and we've dove way deep.
I share that earlier this year I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease and that I've been going down a gut health journey with a naturopath, functional nutritionist, and the only functional GI doctor in the state. Joe says I'm not the only person he knows with the disease.
And so many more people are getting diagnosed than ever used to.
So many than they ever used to.
Yeah.
It's all coming back to chemicals to me.
Yeah, I kind of feel like just like healing our gut and healing the soil. I feel like there's definitely some metaphors, some connections.
There totally is.
Yeah.
People are starting to realize that what we eat is what
it's medicine. Yeah, our food is medicine.
We kind of fit in with the East Coast.
Yeah, we're getting kind of crunchy out here.
Montana.
I'm going down this herbalist route, but I'll still have an iced coffee, which is really bad for me when I'm out of town. So I said that's why I'm a semi-crunchy.
The Bruskis may be semi-crunchy, regenerative ranchers today, but they started out as a typical Montana dryland farm and cow-calf operation, just like the one I was raised on and countless others like me. Then they started systematically moving their cows around their pastures. At first, a few times a week, then every day. The results? The grass grew thicker and higher, the roots deeper. By rotating cattle into specific sections of their pastures using polywire paddocks that rope off where cows can and cannot graze, they've elevated the organic matter levels in the soil. The impact of the animals' hooves, manure, and pee broke up the hard pan, improving water infiltration. Dung beetles moved in, tunneling into the soil to create even more pathways for rain to travel. The Bruskis liked what they saw and reseeded more farmland back into grass, planting diverse mixes of grass, flowers, and forbs.
When you start seeing places that were basically a scrub desert type soil, and you start seeing roots 6 feet down in the ground 2-3 years later,
wow,
it's pretty impressive. We're starting to see trees where we never had trees, and I would love to see beavers up and down our creeks and just getting our water cycle back.
They eventually seeded everything back to grass, auctioned off all their farming equipment, and made more changes to the ranch. They built more water and fencing infrastructure to better facilitate rotational grazing on their place. Along the way, they discovered it wasn't profitable to raise calves, and it wasn't good for their soil to bale hay anymore either. So they sold their mother cow herd and baling equipment. I'd only heard of families selling off their herd because they were retiring or going broke. It was a bold move, but they had a plan. Abby and Joe chat about the auctions they held during this time.
We went to Ranching for Profit and realized we had way too many overheads. We had a farm auction. And we had a lot of talk in town that we were going bankrupt. And, that's when people sell, that's usually first thoughts. But that was actually a choice we made. And
that was the first auction or the second auction?
Second auction.
We put 4,200 bales up, cleaned the machines up, and sold them.
Wow. So people must have been like, what's going on?
Yeah.
What did they do in place of raising calves and selling hay, you might ask? They changed their business to a custom yearling and stalker enterprise. Stay with me. Here's where things get a little more technical. Stalkers are young, weaned calves they buy in the fall, feed through winter and spring, then sell in the summer to a feedlot or another rancher who uses the cow as a replacement for their herd. Custom yearlings are weaned calves owned by other ranchers that the Bruskis get a fee for grazing on their grass. They're currently about 50-50, owned stalkers and custom grazers. This switch from owning mother cows and raising calves to rotationally grazing young cattle that are only on the place for part of the year lets the Bruskis rest their pastures for 10 to 18 months. Ryan says they try and switch it up to keep the ecosystem healthy.
On where we're at, and we're mixing that up constantly, so it's not the same ground getting the same graze or the same recovery period every time. We're switching it up to because Mother Nature's very, very intelligent, so we're trying to keep her guessing.
This is also called mob grazing, and it's what's created incredible changes to the ecosystem, from how buoyant and healthy the soil is to other life that populates the ranch like birds, beetles, beavers, and trees. The switch to grazing young cattle also turned the commodity the Bruskis sell from calves to grass. Even though I grew up in agriculture, this was hard for me to grasp at first. On the drive down to Ekalaka, I asked my dad to explain.
They're harvesting the grass and they're marketing through cattle. Because if you put a 500-pound calf out here in the spring and you take it off in the fall, August or September, you're selling the gain that the grass gave the calf. The calf is growing through the summer.
Ryan confirms this during our conversation.
We're grass harvesters. I mean, that's the commodity that we're harvesting is turning grass into pounds of beef. So that would be the commodity to me that we are producing or selling.
This way of ranching has dramatically improved their business to the point where they can now afford to have 7 to 8 hired hands at any given time. The Bruskis don't believe bigger is better. They reject the Nixon-era edict to get big or get out of agriculture. So instead of acquiring more land to increase profitability, they have made their existing ground more productive. It's not only been good for them, by creating jobs, they're directly contributing to the resilience of the Ekalaka economy. Some of their employees are local, others come under their employment through the H-2A visa program. While it's time-consuming to move string and set up those polywire paddocks to rotationally graze upwards of 5,000 cattle at a time, Abbey shares that
by taking those extra moves to do 1 or 2 times a day, it paid for a full-time employee to come over.
I ask Ryan what other plans they have in the works for the near future.
I hope within the next 2 years to be fully stocking it ourselves. That's kind of the goal.
So no more custom grazing?
Probably not. It's not my goal because you can just make so much more with the owning them than you can getting paid for your grass. So especially with the sell-by marketing. So
can you explain what that is in like a very elementary way?
I'm probably going to butcher it. You're basically in an elementary way.
Ryan goes on to explain a strategy he learned from a consulting business that helps farmers and ranchers build wealth, a critical skill in an industry with notoriously tight profit margins.
Correct way to probably put it, but for me, it's buying the undervalued animal and turning it, when you do sell it, it's an overvalued animal.
Could you compare it to like buying a fixer-upper house?
Yeah. Fixer-upper and remodeling it and then flipping it type deal. Yep, exactly.
While there are other ranchers in Ekalaka embracing new approaches to the industry, I imagine selling off their baling equipment and mother cow herd to raise fixer-uppers may have turned some heads in their community.
It sounds like you guys have a pretty strong regenerative community, but were there any neighbors' reactions that were kind of shocked or on the other side of supportive?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't mean this in any disrespect, but it's even what we're doing now. We're finding opposition that I didn't think we would. But there was definitely a lot of, you're the black sheep. We had neighbors down the road that they had been doing some of this stuff and going more down the regenerative path before us, so they were the black sheep before we were. So then when you slowly add people that are like willing to try some of this stuff, it gets better. But there's still people that like, you could go ask anybody in town at the feed store right now, and we're a bunch of crazies, and that's okay. But it's something that I think in human nature that if what we're doing is working for us, then that means they're wrong, and they're not wrong because what they've done has got them to where they're at, and that's what our generations before us, my grandpa and my dad, and everybody that was on this place before us. I'm not saying what they did was wrong. It got them through what they did, but it's just not right for us now. It's not what's going to work for us, and that's where, like, what we're doing currently very well might not be what we're doing in 20 years.
It wasn't just farming and calving that were no longer working for the Bruskis. It was the going to work before your kids woke up and coming home when they were already in bed. It was the business part. It was the people part. It was the family dynamic that came from a lack of transparency and planning between generations.
It was about 2014 when we got married and we were both here on the place. And so the succession piece didn't come into place because still at that time my dad didn't know what was going on.
Your grandma had just died.
In 2015 she passed, and that's when my dad found out what was actually going to happen
to him.
And so
what happened there too?
He had to buy out his 4 siblings to get the shares that he had in our business. And that was tough. Yeah.
That was tough to see. He did a lot of that, I like to believe, for his children.
Yeah, he could have passed it on, and his brother would have had a chance to do the same. But if Dad had first option to buy his siblings out, and if he did that for me, because he won't pay that off, and I mean, maybe we will.
Yeah.
But he did that basically for us. But he made that decision so that we'd have a future here. He could have decided to opt out of it, but he decided to not.
We're forever grateful of that because we're,
Yep.
Ryan's dad, Joe, didn't know he'd be put into the position of buying out his siblings to ensure Ryan and Abby's chance at taking over the place. For his whole life, Joe was in the dark about his parents' succession plans for the farm and ranch and the future he and his family would have there. It was a chain that needed to be broken.
I saw what my dad had went through, and like, he didn't know that he was going to get this place until he was 55. And so it was like in that unknown uncertainty that had him just uncomfortable for a lot of his life. And so it was something that, like, when it was brought up, it was like almost voodoo, if you will. I mean, it was just kind of like that uncomfortable thing that if we talk about it, somebody's going to die, or it just, I don't really know what it was about it, but it just made everybody super emotional. And I didn't want it to be, because I had been around a few people where it wasn't, and I saw how normal it was for them to talk about like the next generation taking over, or, you know, being the leaders of the place. And it was just like, why can't we be like that? Why can't this be normal for us too? But it wasn't something when I was growing up for it to be normal. And so it was a lot of Abby. I got to give her a lot of the kudos, because we constantly talked about it.
Abbey, whose family has their own messy succession stories, wasn't about to live with years of uncertainty. She was right there next to Ryan, weathering the stress of the transition after Ryan's grandma passed, and she was determined to do something to ensure something like that didn't happen again.
It's hard for us to have children and build our succession plan when we didn't even know what ours was going to look like. We want to be here. We want to raise our children here. We love this life. I think that's why it gets so emotional, is it gets lost in the weeds, because we all really do care about the ranch and the legacy and building that. But in a business aspect of it, you also have to know, is it going to thrive and keep going and be able to take care of us?
Abbey and Ryan place equal importance on the health of the soil and grass and the financial viability of the business. After investing in infrastructure and experiencing firsthand the impacts of not having a succession plan, the need to roll up their sleeves on the business end of things became more apparent.
We were doing the soil and the animal part really well, but we were really lacking in the people department.
And the finances,
and it was really hard on Abby and I's marriage and my father and I's relationship, and because he'd have things that he wanted done, and I'd have things that I wanted to get done, and we didn't have a healthy way to communicate on how that all looked. And then we went to Ranching for Profit, and that's when we all kind of shifted to having weekly meetings, and that's when the succession thing kind of started.
It really taught us how to be a business and keep family and business separate, but learn how to work through the people part of it and the people who work in the business that's family. That's where family ranching gets confusing, because most of us, we all work in the business together, and then, you know, you're still families.
Some people may think ranchers are alone with their cattle all day and don't need things like interpersonal communication skills or weekly meetings, but they really do. The Bruskis even built an office building outside of their home to further separate work from family life. It's a far cry from the FSA maps that covered my kitchen table each spring growing up. While I was in town, I dropped by a 7 a.m. Monday ranch meeting to see their business management skills in action.
So sometimes kids are here and sometimes they're not. So today, guys, we have a busy week. Royce is going to be gone for some of the...
Since ranching is a family business, sometimes their kids are there too, but they're prepared. Ryan and Abby's office building even has a little side room where the kids can hang out when they need to.
Wire back there that all the cattle pigs are out and stuff. Okay, loud man, you get in there. Bye-bye.
Another tool that helps Ryan and Abbey separate business from family, they learned from a book.
Crucial Conversations, How to Have a Conversation When Stakes Are High. And that book was really hard. You're going to laugh at this one, because my husband, he's read it like 6 times. It has helped us learn a level of respect for each other and learn how we need to be in the right mindset to have business conversations or family, personal conversations. So what we like to do is we wear different hats. When we talk to each other, any time of the day, we say, all right, what hat? I need to talk to my business partner. So can you please put that hat on? I have a personal issue. I need to talk to my spouse. I need you to wear this hat. Then they put that hat on. And so it kind of puts us in the right mindset and the respect level that we all have for each other.
So will you, actually say, Ryan, I need you to wear the personal hat?
Yes. I need you to put this hat on right now because I have something I need to talk to you. And then, they call it pillow talk or wherever, but you need to find that time that that is a safe space where we can have these conversations. It's very hard to do so when you are business partners, when you are married, when you have children. It is hard to find that safe space to have those conversations together. When you work with your in-laws, when you work with employees.
All this work on the business, setting up systems, delineating roles, creating a culture of open communication, has dovetailed nicely into succession planning. Abbey has led the charge on this too, and it suits her personality.
I'm happier now than I've ever been, but I have a business role now. I'm not just mom. I'm not just cooking and cleaning and doing that. I have a business role. I'm an equal partner with my spouse, and then my father-in-law's in there with us too.
As part of their business and succession plans, the Bruskis have separated their land holdings from their operating business. As the managing generation, Abbey and Ryan own the operating business, and as the senior generation, Joe and Sonia own the land. Abbey and Ryan lease the land from Ryan's parents, and Joe has taken up a senior advisor position in the business. Despite the differentiated roles, Joe, Abbey, and Ryan still work closely together on the land and in the business, but the hierarchy has changed a little bit. Abbey shares what this transition has been like for the three of them.
He's in a senior advisor role. We don't get it perfect. We are still learning how to manage this with Ryan being his dad's boss. It's kind of weird. We're still learning to work through this. But at the end of the day, it just keeps us all, we hold each other accountable. We value his advice, his opinions, his mentorship and leadership because he has been doing this longer than us. He knows the land. He's got great ideas and brings a bunch to the table. So we take that advice and role when we make our big business decisions. And then he is a paid employee to get to work here with us. And he gets to watch the succession take place and not from the grave.
It's fun witnessing the dynamic between Abbey and Joe. They have a playful banter and seem to work well together. I know from watching my mom go through it that working with in-laws can be tense, but Joe and Abbey have built a good rapport and trust through the years.
I've never felt pushed in a corner. I've got a very unique, wonderful situation with my in-laws, but I have in my family experience, there's horrible stories with the daughter-in-law and father-in-law experiences. And Joe and I have to work on nurturing that relationship and make sure we don't get to that point because it's very painful. I see a lot of people suffer through that, almost where they just don't want to be there anymore.
To prevent that from happening, they know how to keep things light.
Because we always sometimes bat heads once in a while.
We bat heads once in a while. But
we know
we're
at the end of the day exactly how to get through it, and I appreciate respect.
I can push her buttons real easy. She can push my buttons real easy.
Absolutely.
But that's actually good too.
It is
similar in that way. I mean, do you have similar personalities? Is that
There's more and more I can see.
I see her becoming little me in a lot of ways. Like
And-
some of the there's things she does now that she would never have done 8 years ago.
Like what?
Oh, what were you doing the other day?
I think it was something about even with employees, but I'm always double checking or doing something.
And
I don't know
that's
what
something
step.
that I would have done no problem.
The idea for a board advisor position for Joe came out of a 5-day succession and estate planning school by Ranching for Profit that the Bruskis attended in Billings. Ryan stayed home with the cows and the kids, and Abbey went with her in-laws intent on making a plan. Before the succession school, Abbey and Ryan had asked Joe about taking over the operating business, and he said he wasn't ready to let it go. After,
he said, I should have done this 10 years ago. The way we think of retirement, what it is, it's a paradigm shift. It's just opening up our mind up to thinking that retirement and succession is really a beautiful thing. But it's a scary thing because we don't like to think about death. We don't like to think about slowing down or not being able to work here and do what we love to do and what we've built and all these things. So, and feeling like you don't have a place and fit in anymore. I think that we need to normalize that it's okay to talk about that and to make this a really good, healthy thing to talk about. It is now table talk all the time.
the timing of the Bruskis' succession planning journey is eerie. Less than a week after they went to the succession school, Joe had a serious health complication.
So yeah, literally like 5 days after we went to the school, Joe was working really hard on his plans and what he wanted everything to look like. And he wasn't looking very good or feeling very good. And I said, can we go to the clinic? And he thought it was post-COVID lungs. He just says, I just am struggling breathing. And he just wasn't feeling very good.
We'll find out what happened to Joe after this short break. This episode is supported by the World Wildlife Fund. Through the Ranch Systems and Viability Planning Program, or RSVP, World Wildlife Fund has established a comprehensive support system for ranchers in the northern Great Plains to develop sustainable grazing management plans. RSVP members receive educational scholarships, ranch infrastructure and technical assistance, and in-depth rangeland and ecological monitoring. Learn more at worldwildlifefund.org/places/great-plains. Welcome back to Reframing Rural. I'm Megan Torgerson. Joe was just holing himself up after the succession school to work on his plans when he started feeling sick.
I went down to the office, and I sat down and kind of did what we were thinking downstairs. And then like a week later, I was in having coronary bypass, 4 bypasses and an aneurysm fixed. And I wasn't worried about it. So to have it already kind of figured out what we wanted before I went in, that was a good thing.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, imagine if that would have happened 1 week earlier, you might not have felt as reassured.
Right.
Joe tells the story as if it were no big deal. Yes, he was relieved he'd just got his succession plans down on paper, but still, he had a major surgery. Abbey picks up on the part of the story where they get Joe to the hospital in Ekalaka.
And we get him in there, and we had no idea they were going to life flight him to Bismarck, and said, not good. And they went in and dove in and said, you need a quadruple bypass and you have an aortic aneurysm. He ended up having open heart surgery for 13 hours, and we didn't know what was going to happen. We all went up and we didn't know. But not a cool thing to say now when we look back on it is I felt so at ease with Joe when he called me. I was at home. Ryan and Sonia went up, and Ryan got to stay with his dad the whole week with his mom and sisters. And I got to be home here with the kids, and I was pregnant with my other one, and I was taking care of things here at home. And Joe, I says, what do you need me to do? What can I do to make sure everything's in place? Because at the hospitals, they want your will and everything. They want to know what's going to happen because you don't know if you're going to wake up. And he was at peace. We were all at peace that we had a plan then now in place. We knew his wishes, we knew his plan, and we had procedures in place because of Ranching for Profit that we knew that the business was still running. Ryan and Joe, the main players in the business, they were gone that whole week, and cattle were being fed, things were being taken care of because we had procedures and systems in place that kept the business going.
The plans and procedures that resulted from the Bruskis' succession conversations is a more than 5-inch thick book Abbey compiled called the Emergency Transition Plan. It's an impressive piece of work that serves as both their succession plan and operating instructions for the business.
We have an ETP plan, so it's called an Emergency Transition Plan. And so, that's what's really getting all of your team on the same page. And so that when there is tragedy that strikes, your family can focus on mourning you rather than worrying about the business part. The business is still going to run tomorrow. And that's what it is. It's really getting everyone on the page. And anyone who's going to be in that role knows where that book is at, knows where the plan is at, and can step in and run that business. My book is huge, but they're going to have it all there, and everything's going to be all right. I hope that book gets dusty. I hope it doesn't need to get open besides me updating it and making some changes, because life changes and we're always growing and changing. But besides me editing it and updating it, I hope it doesn't have to get open, but only God knows that. So my family's going to be okay if something happens.
Abbey's book is so thorough that if something were to happen to all 3 of the key players, the business could be picked up and run by someone else. She runs through the litany of scenarios she considered when assembling the plan.
Let's say that we have a tragedy happen, which we hear about that all the time, every day in farming and ranching. If Ryan and Joe and I died in a car wreck because we all travel together a lot, we're going to things. We have 5,000 cattle here, where's Sonia know what to do with them? Where are they going to get shipped out? Who's going to help come ship them out? Where's the brand inspectors and the cattle buyer? Who's going to sell them? You got to have all these things in place, written down, phone numbers, and then you need to talk to those people and let them know that you are our contact if something happens. Are you ready to take that step and be in that position? So they need to be aware of it. Calling neighbors, putting neighbors on the list. Who's going to help gather the cattle? I mean, all those things need to be in there.
I ask Abby to show me the book, and she takes me downstairs to their safe to read me the first page. In the room next door, there's an entire wall of aerial farm and ranch photos, a nod to the agricultural history of both Abby and Ryan's families.
My first page in my book, when you open this book, it says, "Hello, if you're reading this, there has been an emergency in the family, and the Bruskis can no longer handle the business matters. Please follow instructions and work step by step to close out accounts, credit cards, bank accounts, death certificates recorded accordingly, online subscriptions, everything needs closed out. Everything is going to be okay. You have been given this folder because the Bruski family had all the trust in the world that you would be able to handle this huge task and make sure their family, business, and legacy was taken care of. Thank you for taking on this task in case of a tragedy. With all our love and gratitude, all the Bruskis." So all of our names are listed.
You may think Abby is paranoid about something bad happening to one of them, but I think she's smart. Rather than fearing death and pretending it isn't going to happen, she faces it and makes a plan. When I was a little girl, I had a recurring nightmare that one of my parents would die. In one dream, my dad would walk up to me on the playground to bring me home because my mom had just passed. In other dreams, my dad would be killed in a farm accident. These nightmares weren't far from reality. I had a classmate in elementary school whose leg was severed above the knee due to a PTO shaft accident. My friend's grandfather was missing an arm. My grandpa, part of his index finger. I hope the Bruskis don't have to use that book until Abby and Ryan are old and gray. But with Ryan's asthma as severe as it is, it's good they have it. Sonia shares that her son Ryan has had a few scares in the last few years.
Year before last, he was in the ER here, like 3 times, scarily. And I don't know if he told you, the wedding he was in last weekend, he had an asthma attack. He's to the point now that he was like going, I hope I can live until I get my kids raised. Oh. Yeah, it's scary. He has to be really careful.
How are you guys doing today?
Can you say good? Yeah. Okay, come sit down.
You can
sit down
in front of this mic,
yep.
Okay?
Yep, you come sit.
We'll try this one out.
Between all the sobering interviews, we rejoin Abby and Ryan's 3 kids. We sit down together at their kitchen table for their turn at speaking into the microphone.
What's your name?
Becca.
And how old are you?
8.
8. And where are you from?
Ekalaka, Montana.
Good job.
And what's your name?
My name is Harper Ryan Bruski, and I'm 5. And what else?
What grade are you in?
What grade are you in?
Preschool.
But you're going to be in
kindergarten.
Yeah.
And what do you guys do on your family's ranch?
What do you do out here?
Work cows. Help chickens.
Ooh.
What else do you guys do? Roll up fence and move fence.
And make fence.
Yeah. What do we do when we roll up the fence? What do you girls do to help Dad?
Find holes.
Find holes. But what do you pull out of the ground?
The stick.
Yeah, the post. The
post.
Yeah.
And then what sound do we make when we call our cows, our yearlings through there?
Suey.
We say suey.
And me and Dad too. We go sue cows.
You can hear Luke, their youngest, joining in with his sisters to sound the suey cattle call. It's sweet watching Ryan and Abby interact with their kids, the reason they work so hard on and in their business. They soften a little in their kids' presence, just as I'm sure I do with Connor. About Ryan's role as a dad, his mom proudly shares,
He's the best daddy. He cares so much what they do, what they eat, how they play, what they watch on TV. He's so into health. And, I see it benefiting all of them.
When the Bruskis restructured, one of the results was more family time and better work-life balance. It's a phrase I'd never before equated with agriculture because it's usually all-consuming. It's work and life. But it's something that I think could have helped my family dynamic a lot before my parents retired when they were actively farming and ranching and raising kids. It could help a lot of people. Abbey and Ryan hold forth on what this change has meant to them.
Our days are done at 5 o'clock, sometimes earlier, sometimes later. It depends what season we're in, what we're doing. But he's very committed about family, and our kids get to know their dad. And so I'm extremely
And it's not
blessed.
like we're not busy, but it's like when I grew up, like you say, I didn't see my dad much at all during planting season and harvest. It just, and there was never really a low time. And I don't think that we really have a slow time right now either, but we do prioritize. Like, I can't tell you the last time that I came in at 10 o'clock from having to work. I mean, like, we yes, are we super busy? And I mean, our days start early and we still work really hard, but we prioritize of making time for the family, because if we don't, it's just not going to happen.
As my mom could tell you, making time for the family is important for both farmers and ranchers with young kids and adult children. Near the end of my conversation with Joe, I ask what advice he has for farmers and ranchers in a similar chapter of life as him. What is advice that you would give to parents who are in the same boat as you?
That are ready to retire.
Yeah, or maybe they don't know they should be ready yet, too.
Learn to enjoy yourself. Don't work all the time.
This is something Joe can speak to from experience. Since he switched into the senior advisor role, he's enjoyed taking time to travel to ranching business workshops, making friends with other regenerative producers from around the country along the way. He has time to spend with his grandkids and has even gone on a fishing trip up to Alaska. And he's been there to witness Abbey and Ryan's transition, something his dad missed out on seeing.
And it's more fun watching them succeed from this side of the grass than from that side of the grass, from under the ground. So why not enjoy it? You know, and you can still be there to ask questions from, and what do you think?
Near the end of my time with the Bruskis, I asked Joe what's something he'd like future generations to know about his life's work stewarding his family's land.
That we tried to make it better. Because I know it's better than what it was.
And anything you'd like to share about Ryan, I guess, too?
Oh, I'm proud of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Him and Abby, both, they do good.
Yeah. Joe's fair blue eyes well with tears when he says this. He may have been hesitant at first to change the course of his family's ranch, but you'd never know it talking to him now. He is palpably proud of his son and daughter-in-law. Though their time to pass the torch is many years from now, I ask Abbey the same question, what she hopes future generations will know about her and Ryan's work on the ranch.
My hopes for this ranch that Ryan and I are stewards of right now, as I hope people, pictures will come down, we will be forgotten at some point, but I hope that we've left a good enough mark or impact on people that we are remembered as mentors, not being afraid to do something different, think outside the box, and really protect our family and our legacy.
During our last day in town, Abbey, Ryan, and their kids take me to one of their favorite properties. Here, they've intentionally fenced off their dam and pipe water out of it to protect the banks from erosion. Ryan's parents and my parents join us, along with my son Connor and the Bruskis' hired hand from South Africa, Mariska. We're up in the rims overlooking Ekalaka at a forested pasture the Bruski family has leased for over 60 years. It was once part of a big horse ranch, owned by a family who lives in Missoula now. Old log buildings from the era lay in heaps by a creek that feeds into the dam below. Turtles line its banks and bask on logs in the sun. Surrounding us, there's pine trees and rocky outcroppings, places where rattlesnakes, bull snakes, mountain lions, and elk live. Joe said he once saw the rocks take the shape of a buffalo. The light had to be just right that day because he never saw it again. You can feel the history of the place cascading down the rims into the grassy meadow where we stand. This land has known much more than we can imagine. Connor steadies himself in the tall grass, trailing behind the bigger kids.
We can swim in this in the
And it's too deep.
My parents exchange handshakes with the Bruskis.
That's really cool that you guys have been able to come along and...
Oh, I know. This is our second.
That is really cool.
To Chester with me.
I meet Mariska from South Africa.
Been in New York, South Dakota, North Dakota, Texas, and then in Montana.
And Joe crouches down to meet Connor.
How are you? Connor. Connor, glad to meet you. Huh? What do you think? Or do you come out and play? You got your dino boots. I like dino boots. I don't know about that Grizz jersey. That's my cousin coach.
Connor won't remember this trip, but I hope on a cellular level he'll know the smell of the Bruskis' pasture at springtime, the touch of grass, the sound of meadowlarks, and the sight of the pine trees and mud buttes. And I hope to take him to more regenerative ranches in the future. Connor is one generation removed from farming and ranching, so I'll have to be intentional about that wish. The Bruski kids are born into agriculture. Like me, like Ryan, like Abby. No matter where they go in life, no one can ever take that away from them. But I have a feeling some, if not all, of the Bruski children will find their way back home to live a life in harmony with nature. The author Grace Olmsted wrote that farmers who work in isolation are likely to estrange their children from the farm because of its grueling and lonely labors. The farmers who are surrounded by community and work with a team of individuals will foster a vision of life that is wholesome and lively for their children. This is what I see Abby, Ryan, Joe, and Sonia actively doing. Working as a team, making time for the family, making ranching fun. That's what they hope for their kids' future.
This is our rock collection. Here, let's just say.
Can we add this one?
That was my spit. And I did. This one. Good. Let's go. Watch out for those. Those are fruit. Stop.
This episode of Reframing Rural was written, reported, and produced by me, Megan Torgerson, with help from our story editor, Mary Auld, and associate producer, Madeline Jordan. Music and audio engineering was by Aaron Spieldenner and Sean Dwyer of Hazy Bay Music, with additional music by Skylar Mihal and Chandra Johnson. This season of Reframing Rural is made in collaboration with Win It Aces, with funding and support from the Plank Stewardship Initiative, World Wildlife Fund, Headwaters Foundation, American Farmland Trust, the Department of Public Transformation, and listeners like you. If you know someone who is going through succession planning or who loves a good family agriculture story, please share today's story with them. To find out more about Season 4 of Reframing Rural Succession Stories and past seasons, visit reframingrural.org.